Hello and welcome to the Decibel Boost podcast, the official music podcast of the website Surreal Resolution. I'm your host, Robert, who's just fucking ready for this godforsaken year to be over with already. And with me, I have...
Not down with the sickness, but down with the love, Alex.
And...
I'm working. I made a song about washing dishes.
Oh. Washing dishes, man, you gotta fold that laundry. And, drink the soy milk or something.
With some raisin bran and bananas.
Get the nutrients, the potassium. Maybe take an embargo or an embark into the rice fields. Motherfucker!
Those are quality rice fields, man. So, yes, this is the one you've all been waiting for. All... five of you who listen to this, I assume. This is the official Decibel Boost year-end favorite albums of the year spectacular ultra HD remix featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series.
And Knuckles.
That too.
Now in 3D.
Yes, this will be where we all relay unto you lovely people the albums that we thought were our favorites or the best, because my authority supersedes everyone, because I am perfect.
Sure.
Oh, you got something to say, boy? You got something to say?
No, I'm just glad that Mark and I aren't as pedantic as to make a best of list. Who do you think you are?
Look, I'm just someone who uses whatever wording is convenient to me because I don't have time to fuck around with fucking pedantry. Do I look like one of those Twitter egg avatars?
Fair point.
Okay, you got it there.
Okay, so we are going to go in the following order of first up Alex, then Mark, then probably that's where the break is going to be, then yours truly. Because I got, probably the biggest list, but, we'll get to that when we get to that. So, of course, we're going to start off the list by throwing it over to our resident prog snob, Alex.
Yes, good. Okay, so, for me, I had to think long and hard about the albums I listened to all year long, some of which were from this year, of course. And I had to really come up with a solid list, and I do believe I came up with a pretty solid list. But I do have to give an honorable mention because this one kind of came real late under the radar. The soundtrack album to Yuri on Ice. For what it's worth, this album has fantastic music. It has a little bit of everything. It has opera, it has orchestral music, it has big band, it has some pop and rap. It's just a little bit of everything, and it just, if you've seen the show, you know how well it blends in with all the skating choreography and all that. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I would argue that's probably, amidst all the, discussion of the animation and the overwhelming homoeroticism, it's amazing how few people mention the great soundtrack to Yuri on Ice.
I never heard people listen to music.
I know. And, funny little note, this album is actually peaked on the iTunes chart at number 24 for everything in 3 days.
Impressive.
Very nice.
Yeah. It also helps that the Yuri on Ice finale actually broke down Crunchyroll and Tumblr on Wednesday. Crazy, but that's what happens when you're the hottest show of the year. You break some stuff. But enough of that falderall. Okay, starting off my list at number 10 is an album from a band I really should have paid more attention to years ago. Baby Metal's Metal Resistance. The fantastic follow-up to their first album with some surprisingly really well-structured songs. The first album has that kind of J-pop kind of feel. This one, not so much in a few select tracks, like the track that you pointed me toward when it first came out, Robert, Tales of the Destinies. This is
metalcore Dream Theater.
This is like the gentiest Dream Theater tribute I've ever heard. It has the gent vibes, and it has in the middle is a section that reminds me so much of the Glass Prison off the 6 Degrees album. And hearing how it blends right into the last track from the song, the one, it's just, it's beautiful. But aside from those songs, there are some really surprisingly strong moments on the album, like No Rain, No Rainbow. That's a strong vocal solo from Sumeto. There's the instrumental, or most of the instrumental, from Dusk Till Dawn, which is kind of like an instrumental break for what they call the comedy bands, just sort of, screw around and have some time for themselves, which, by the way, they are fantastic musicians. Like, if you've seen the some of their live footage, they are amazing musicians beneath all that get-up and the makeup and all that kind of crap. But of course, most people would talk about the first track on the album, which was also the second to last track on the first album when it came overseas, Road of Resistance, or as the Weeds would say, Bokura no Resistance, featuring Mr. Herman Lee and Sam Topman of Dragon Force. And this pretty much is Dragon Force song with really powerful female vocals. Like, I find myself headbanging to this song a lot if I'm not, tearing up over the vocals, which I do every now and then because I'm weird. But, yeah, I really should have gave these girls a listen a long time ago. I feel bad that I didn't, and I've hit myself in the head repeatedly over and over the past 8 months for that very reason. But to make up for it, I bought both their albums on vinyl because, like I said, I'm weird.
Nerd.
Yeah, flippin' yeah. Okay, next up at number 9 is an album I kind of discovered mostly on accident. It actually came from an EMG TV video, that channel on YouTube where guitarists just play songs, some of which are good, a few of which are not so good. But this is actually a solo outing from Mike Keneally, who some of you might know as the second guitarist in the live Death Clock band, and who is also the voice of Toki in the Doomstar Requiem, simply titled Scambot 2. I'll be honest, I'm not familiar with a lot of Mike Keneally's work, but it comes across like a really solid blend of 70s rock, 70s progressive rock, with a little bit of modern metal and a big influence of Frank Zappa. Like, a lot of these songs I wouldn't call metal, but they're still pretty heavy in the flow and in the groove, and in the vocals especially, and more than anything, it just makes me miss Death Clock and Metalocalypse. I really want that next album from Brenton Small to come out, like, now.
Soon.
Yeah. So think of it like, the best way I could describe it is, it's in the same vein of Brenton Small's Galacticon album, where it wasn't, super aggressive, dark, dooming, growling heavy metal, but it has sort of the same groove and flow. It feels... It's a weird blend of metal infused into 70s style rock. It's pretty good listen too. Next up at number 8 is an album I'm sure everyone has listened to, considering real life circumstances. David Bowie's Black Star. His epitaph, if you will. Now, I'm going to be honest, I've never been a big fan of all these, I guess you could say older musicians like, David Bowie, Lou Reed, Elton John, all that kind of stuff. But there are some songs that I will go back and listen to, especially from Bowie and Elton John. And Black Star, it's kind of weird to really describe it, knowing that David Bowie's dead. Like, it feels... I don't know. It just feels like somehow Bowie knew his time was up and this was going to be his very last outing. And it just felt kind of foreboding in a way, especially with the title track, Black Star. It's really good, but it just feels weird listening to it and knowing what happened, within that time frame of its release,
I feel you.
Yeah. Okay. Don't have much to say about that, so I'll just move on. Number 7, it's technically not an album, but compared to most albums, this is album length. It is a sort of in-between release from one Mr. Steven Wilson, simply titled 4.5. This was mostly comprised of songs that were cut from his latest solo album, Hand Cannot Erase, which was a fantastic album. It's amazing. And it has what you would expect from Steven Wilson. It has some pop vibes, a little bit of ambience, and lyrics that feel kind of depressing. But, that comes from the territory of Steven Wilson. But the standout for that to me would actually be the last track, which is a remake. I can't say cover because he wrote it. It's a remake of Porcupine Tree's Don't Hate Me. And it has this amazing female vocalist whose name I'm completely blanking on right now. But it provides a really interesting dynamic between the two vocals, along with the changed up instrumentation, because I think I'm pretty sure there's Marco Miniman on drums, who compared to Porcupine Tree's first drummer is on another plateau.
Absolutely.
And his bass player that he's brought with him for his live shows and solo albums, whose name I'm blanking on, he doesn't play bass. He plays a Chapman stick, and that offers a really different dynamic that you would get from a standard bass guitar. I won't go into too much detail trying to explain how it works, but it offers kind of a louder, in a way, dynamic than you would hear from Colin Edwin's Fretless Bass. But most of all, this just worked really well because it serves its purpose as an in-between, and it makes me crave and want Steven Wilson's next album, and of course a proper Porcupine Tree reunion. But I won't hold my breath.
Soon.
Yeah, I know Gavin Harrison's itching to get band back together with his big band jazz solo album of Porcupine Tree covers, which, by the way, was really good. Continuing on at number 6, I'll preface this by saying I don't listen to a whole lot of rap music. It's not a personal thing. It's just I've never really gotten to a lot of what you would call typical hip hop and rap. Like some of the stuff from the early 90s, like NWA, Tupac, all that kind of stuff. I can get into some of that.
Wu-Tang?
Some stuff. Yeah, even some stuff from Dre and Eminem from when they were early on in their careers. But then we come to A Tribe Called Quest.
Ooh.
Who was absent for a really long time until coming out with their latest and, unfortunately, last album. We got it from here. Thank you for your service. Now, I know we talked about this in a previous episode, so I won't go too deep into detail about all those situations. But this is the kind of rap I like. It's not your typical ego-driven rap. It's social, it's current, and it's even kind of political in some tracks. What sort of drove me to get this was seeing them on Saturday Night Live when they were on with Dave Chappelle was hosting, because they put on some great performances on that episode of SNL, and I had to just get the album after that, and I did, and I'm glad I did, because there were some killer tracks on there. I'm sure that's going to come up in your lists as well, Mark and Rob.
Well, who knows?
Yeah, that's the Mr.E. So, coming from one end of the musical spectrum to another, at number 5, the latest progressive rock masterwork from auteur Neil Morse, The Similitude of a Dream, which is actually a concept album of a very, very old religious work dating back to like the 1690s. The name forgets me. I know it's really long, but I was kind of hesitant to hear this album because Mike Portnoy, who works with Neil Morse, and they've been buddies for like 15, 16 years, he cited this album as the proudest thing he's ever done, proclaiming it to be a prouder accomplishment than Dream Theater's Scenes from a Memory album, which some might know is highly regarded as one of the greatest progressive rock albums ever. So that's a pretty tall order to meet. And so I forked over my money because it's not streaming anywhere. I paid $14 for it, which was cheaper than on iTunes, but whatever. I listened to the album, and for what it's worth, this is a pretty strong experience. I wouldn't go as far as to say that it's stronger than Scenes from Memory or even Octavarium, but there are some really big bright spots on this album, and it has the one thing I love about concept albums: recurring themes and variations on themes. Like, you know what I mean, Rob, when you have those musical cues in an album that kind of repeat in some later songs.
Yes,
Like,
I'm very
that.
familiar with this.
Yeah, I love it when bands do that. This is no exception. Is it a bigger accomplishment overall than Scenes from Memory is regarded as? I guess only time will tell, but I would say this is the strongest outing from Neil Morse yet. And continuing on the prog rock train, at number 4 for me is the latest album from the Devin Townsend project, Transcendence. Now, yeah, I've been doing some re-education lately on Devin Townsend, going back to some of his early solo work like Ocean Machine, which is a fucking amazing album, and, as well as some early strapping young lad work like City. Thank you for the recommendation, Rob.
Favorite album
as well as the Alien album, which is just, oh man, it's like a punch in the face for an hour. But going from Strapping Young Lad to the current Devin Townsend, oh man, it's like two different people. But to wit, the Devin Townsend Project series of albums, they're interesting. They're never really the same. Like, you can't really compare or call Addicted and Epic Cloud kind of in the same vein, because they're really not.
They are not.
No. And Transcendence is among that. It feels more like a straightforward rock album, but it has sort of those Devin Townsend trademarks.
Yeah, it's kind of got like this kind of like, I must say it kind of has like a gospel-y feel to it, kind of like Epic Cloud did. And I know he had a double album out a couple of years ago, which was the Devin Townsend Project and a solo album.
Yeah, Z2.
Yeah, that one. Which kind of had like that same tone to it, at least on the DTP half.
Yeah, not the Ziltoid half. Yeah, but it does feel kind of gospel-y in some of those songs. I like it. But yeah, it has some of those traits, like in the vocals and the guitar work and the instrumentation with his band members. It's just, I'm having a hard time trying to put things into words tonight. I'm not quite all the way here, but you all should know what I mean when I say, traits and trademarks, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I feel
those are pretty easy. Those are easy, free terms to understand. So, that's number 4. Now we go to some more familiar territory for me with my top 3.
Woo.
Starting with, I'm sure you're expecting this to be my number 1, Rob, but it's actually not. Number 3 for me is Metallica's Hardwired to Self-Destruct.
Actually, no, I was expecting something else to be your number 1.
Well, you'll be pleasantly surprised when you hear what that is. But going to Hardwired, that's really been 8 years since the last Metallica album. Like, when Death Magnetic came out, I just started high school. My life was not even close to beginning yet. And I seem to recall my ears started to blow out around the time that album came out, because...
The loudness wars.
Yeah,
as they call it.
It's bad when you can get a better quality version of an album from Guitar Hero.
Oh, roasted.
Oy vey, Rick Rubin. But thankfully, Metallica came back with this album with a producer who actually knows how to work the dynamic range. And for what it's worth, this is a really strong album. I wouldn't say, strongest since insert album here, because I don't really think it's fair to judge, different albums, considering they have different styles, like, the Load Reload albums. You can't really compare those styles to, like, Kill 'Em All, because they're radically different.
I feel it.
But I will say that Hardwired does have a pretty solid blend of all the usual Metallica styles. You have some 80s thrash in the title track and Spit Out the Bone. You have some some Black Album style grooves like in Confusion. And you even have some styles from Load and Reload, like in, what's that song? Oh yeah, Dream No More. It's interesting how they're blending all of this with, I would call their current style, like from Death Magnetic. It makes for a really interesting blend, and I will admit there are some songs on there that do kind of bring things down, like Am I Savage and Man Unkind. They didn't quite, fit the feel of what the album's trying to be to me. I heard on Chris Jericho's podcast, he had kind of the same sentiment. But there are some amazing tracks on there, like I said, Confusion and Spit Out the Bone. What's interesting to me, though, is that James Hetfield's lyrics for these songs, a lot more personal and retrospective in a way, like Moth into Flame. That was inspired by the Amy Winehouse documentary, and when you read the lyrics, you can kind of see where it was all coming from. And the Confusion, that's obviously about PTSD. Here Comes Revenge, I think that actually goes back to the murder case of the missing girl from Virginia who disappeared after a Metallica concert, only to be found dead somewhere. Like, that's kind of tough stuff to write about, But I will say that Hardwired was an experience I do not regret at all. It's a fantastic album. It has some of their best work in years. Muy excelente.
Spit out the bone, man.
Yeah. There's like a breakdown in that song. It's weird.
I know, but I think I mentioned this on an episode of the podcast, the one we did on the Revolve Music Awards. Spit Out the Bone. I will gladly. I only thought the album was okay, but I will gladly argue Spit Out the Bone is the single best Metallica song in 20 plus years.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So, going from an old style of metal to a newer style of metal at number 2, Periphery 3, Select Difficulty.
Okay, now I'm surprised that I thought would be your number 1 for sure.
Oh, just wait.
Oh,
but,
boy.
Yeah. Periphery is a band that's, like Metallica, is very special to me. For different reasons, though. It was Periphery 2 that I was listening to when I actually got my driver's license here in the States. So yeah, special times. I really regret missing them in concert a few times they've been here. But, work and money, all that kind of stuff. But, Periphery 3. A little bit of everything from Periphery that I would be expecting. You have aggressive vocals from Spencer, amazing guitar parts from Misha, Mark, and Jake, fantastic bass work from Nolly, killer drums from Mr. Halpern,
him and his sexy V-neck.
And some new additions to the repertoire, such as Misha Mansour's orchestral programming. Like, I don't know, Rob, if you follow his YouTube channel, but he does videos where he's working with orchestra synths.
Oh, I've heard about that, actually.
Computer.
I saw a post from him on Facebook today saying he was doing using that to remake some Final Fantasy tracks and shit.
Yeah, and it works pretty well. It almost sounds real, which is really good considering the amount of crappy synth software there is out in the world. What interested me the most on this album, though, is the very last song on there, Loon. Now, Periphery's final songs have been interesting when you compare them. The last song on Periphery's first album is the 15-minute epic race car. Second album, it is
Masamune, I think.
Masamune, which is just the gates of hell opening up.
Yeah, and the way it's the thematic conclusion to the trilogy running through that album. That was Muramasa, Ragnarok, then Masamune.
Because they're Final Fantasy nerds.
Weeps.
And then you have the Juggernaut album, which ended on the double shot of the 11-minute opus Omega, followed by Stranger Things, which is kind of a weird yin and yang kind of feel, like the gates of hell opening up versus optimism, in a way.
Stranger Things indeed.
Yeah. But then we have the last album on Periphery 3, Loon. And it's a love song. Interesting choice, but I had to give the last song a couple listens through before I started to really understand and appreciate it. It even took me reading an interview that Spencer did saying it was about his girlfriend who lived in France. And, after I started reading all that, I started listening to it again, and it really resonated with me in a different kind of way than you would expect. And I'm going to go back into anime fanboy mode for a minute, but You're Very Nice. I love that show, and the lyrics in Loon fit the show and its lead characters so perfectly. Like, it's amazing. I can imagine like a skating routine to that song in my head. It's fantastic. It gives me happy feels instead of, I'm afraid to die feels like Masamune did.
This year.
Yeah, which we really needed this year. But, enough of that. My favorite album of all of 2016 was actually... Yes, thanks to the drum roll, Mr. Drummer.
You're welcome.
Do a 16th note fill, Portnoy style.
Oh, come on, do I look like Portnoy?
No, you don't have the beard.
You bastard.
Alright, but anyway, speaking of, in a way, my favorite album of the year was actually the first album I got of the year. Dream Theater's The Astonishing.
I probably should have seen that coming.
Yes, you should have. Now, much like with The Similitude of a Dream from Neil Morse, and, the Juggernaut double album from Periphery, I love concept albums, especially when they're grand and they're fluid and they're filled with life and characters and settings that you can just imagine in your head with wonderful, vivid clarity. And this is no exception. I was not expecting a 2.5-hour fantasy rock opera set 200 years in the future about an empire who has absolutely decreed music shall be no more, squaring off against a lowly village who wants to revive the gift of music in a way. And listening to the album a couple times, I really got into not just the songs, but the story. And then I saw them live. Story time, folks. Back in April this year, I went to New York City just to see Dream Theater at Radio City Music Hall. It was a fantastic experience. They played that whole album in its entirety with like a 20-minute intermission. And by the way, the bathrooms at Radio City Music Hall are amazing. Just throwing that out there. But this concert was kind of ethereal to me. It was a chance for me to let out some emotions I do admittedly keep to myself more often than I should. But throughout the 3-hour concert, I was just focused on these 5 men performing this album. I was singing along. Some songs I was actually crying while I was singing along to, because it's a sense of majesty that you can only really imagine. And you don't ever think that you would have these kind of emotions when you're just, listening to a band play music live. But that's how important music is to me, especially great music like with Dream Theater. It's just, it just gives me sort of a reason to escape and venture out into these weird magical worlds within, an album or a song, at least a song. But going back to that night in New York City where I'm watching these 5 guys just perform this amazing album damn near perfectly, it moved me to tears many times that night. It was just a fantastic experience and proof that this album was my favorite album of 2016.
Hey.
Whew, that felt good.
Yeah, I gotta admit, the way you make it describe it almost kind of sounds like stuff I'm gonna have to say about my number 1 album, which we'll get to soon enough. But now that Alex has taken care of his favorites of the year, now we move on to the Blue Hybrid himself, Mark. Take it away, my dear friend.
2016. Well, how I rate them is how I go back. Like sometimes, like every album, I rate them as high as I go back it depends on repeat or replayability. Like I will sometimes play an album so many times that I just can listen to it. That's a good I think the album is. Now, before I go to my list, I'm gonna do a little quick shout outs to some albums that I thought they were good. So this will be quick. Let's see, you got Tom Truise as the ghostly artist, ghostly international artist. With Subcontraire EP is short, but it's still a damn good one. No Name with a mixtape Telephone. I thought her shit was good, especially Diddy Bop. That's my shit. Mick Jenkins, a Human Component. Ivan Avenue with Helping Hands. The Rumble King soundtrack.
Oh, damn. I almost forgot about that. That was a good soundtrack.
Yes, it is.
Let's see. If any of you folks want it, you can download it for free from Adult Swim.
Yeah. Okay, we're going on. Okay, as we go on. Night Jewel with Liquid Cool. There's a Crew with Imperial. Schoolboy Q with Blank Face LP.
That was pretty good. That was a pretty good album.
Yeah, it was.
And as far as I'm concerned, the official album artwork is crying Michael Jordan.
Yeah, it should have been. Okay, last but not okay, got two more mentions. Night Funk EP and Kendrick Lamar Untitled Unmastered. Shocking, I know. But yeah, those are still good albums I recommend. And now we get to the top 10.
Woo.
My number 10 is Justice with Woman. Now, the people who know the group Justice, they heard the song Genesis that been played over any Assassin's Creed game back when they were hot. And then,
why did you have to bring up Assassin's Creed?
That's different from that, but yeah. Now lately, they made a good album with Cross, which I thought was an amazing album. Audiovisual Disco, on the other hand, nah, I don't see myself going back to that shit. But Woman, I was curious to see how that turned out, because I heard the first single, Randy, and I thought, it just sounded like some very groovable electro funk that I would want to listen to. I was curious, and I thought, alright, this shit is not bad. I can groove to this shit. I mean, it's not up to Cross levels, but I still say it's fucking solid. I will say one of my favorite tracks I got there is either Pleasure, Stop, and Love SOS, which I thought this shit has got me way into the song so deep. I listen to that shit. I go repeat 4 or 5 times a day when I listen to that. This type of this electro funky shit that I be into. This shit. I say Justice I think they redeemed themselves with this. I think, Woman is a solid album. I mean, it's not the best, but it's good. It's great. Number 9, it says Alex, and since, guess what, Alex? It's number 9, A Child Called Quest. You got me here. Thank you for your service.
Hey, I was half right so far.
Rest in peace, Fife Dog.
I like the music a bit once. I was curious about this album too, because I wonder they released these out of nowhere, and since rest in peace Fight Dog, because damn, I was curious if they released it smoothly after his death. I thought I hope it's not some cash in bullshit, but it's not. It's actually a very solid album. Basically what Alex said, it's full of basically got the jazz, the jazz for social political stuff, which we present in the 2 first tracks. We the people in my favorite one, the Space Program, because they want doing niggas doing niggas in space, as it called it, said we the last people to be alert. Yeah, it's kind of true. Like I said, the album overhand, you gotta listen to the whole album because it got some solid like some solid tracks and guest verses from everyone who did the damn thing. Busta Rhymes did this damn thing. Kendrick Lamar did this damn thing. Anderson .Paak will get him later on. Wink, wink. But yes, I think it's a good album that has that sound they always have, but it didn't feel like it was being. It didn't feel dated. It felt like this is something you listen to in this year, but this year, and I can see something that I can see old heads digging into, young, whatever. Anyone can enjoy this. This is a great album. It was a good album. So that's my number 9. My number 8 is Ka, Honor Killed the Samurai. This is like a cinematic masterpiece, but in hip hop form. Listen to this guy. Listen to this guy. Listen to this guy. I'm like, wow. Okay, basically the whole album is like, it got things from Japan samurai culture, living in the streets of Brownsville, where Carl's from, and it tells like this eerie summer story of trying to survive there, but more like a samurai. And production, and I gotta say, the production and lyrics are just fun. Like it felt like something you would hear in a samurai, in a hip hop samurai, like that kind of thing. One of the most haunting songs to me in the album was Morning Night. You can hear the eerie and moaning sound of trying to survive in these streets. And that's I love production. Even there's no drums, but you know what? I could do it just because they used it actually wisely. I actually dig the shit out of this. This is in fact, and I was gonna say like all singles like Just, that's a good album, that's a good single. Which you can see the video, which aired on Adult Swim on Tsunami before. Remember?
Oh yeah, I was trying to remember which track it was because I know I heard one Ka song because of Toonami.
Yeah, it was Just. That was it. That's the single we're thinking of. But yeah, like I said, Ka, Undercover Samurai, he did a damn good record with this. Oh yeah, and also fuck the New York shit. What's that piece? That's a piece of the New York something wrong in New York Post. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Fuck them. So either way, number 7 on my list is Survive with RR7349. Yes, I mean, yes, you heard them before. You heard before the two people, Kyle Dixon and Michael Stein, with the other people. They did a score for Stranger Things, and listen to this song, like, oh yeah, I could definitely see the the parallels of Stranger Things in this, and I'm like, damn, this is some good electro. It looks like something you hear out of a 1980s new wave horror movie, like something you hear out of John Carpenter or anything from Blade Runner. But yeah, this type of shit I really do dig out. This symphony new wave type of shit that I really dig out of this. I mean, out of this group. I think one of my favorite tracks is Warding Cliff. That's hard to pronounce.
I don't blame you.
Other guy is either AHB, the first track, and High Rise, which I thought these are some good tracks. Like I said, I did a shout of them, and it's like 9 tracks, and it's like 33 minutes. It's like a good listen. Like it's a good listen for like a half an hour. So yeah. So yeah, it's definitely some good. Yeah, it's definitely all right with me. I like this shit. Number 6, and now the levels where and now we go to the stage where I'm like I'm a beat nut. Like I'm a sucker for beats. It is Clams Casino with 32 levels. Yes, producer Clams Casino. That's what the album like you hear of his like of his dark eerie cloud rap style, cloud sound of production, which I ultimately dig, and I thought, a whole album of that, I would like that. I would really dig that because some of my favorite songs on here. One of my favorite songs goes in the Kiss with the artist Samuel T. Herring, who I said before that he has a voice that's close to Leonard Cohen because I like that husky deep voice that sounds like you need somebody with a voice like that to see something about something this dark and eerie, and I thought that is a perfect fit. And like other appears in there, like cool, like like A$AP Rocky and Little B. Yes, the bass god. He appears in like 1, 2, 3, four songs of the whole album.
Swag.
Yeah, they're very tight. And I gotta say, Clam did this damn thing. Clam this fucking thing with the album. And like I said, like Michael Checkly, like goes to the Kiss, Be Somebody, All Night with Vince Staples, my nigga, and of course instrumental with Skull, which that's a fucking classic instrumental that I love. So yeah, Clown's Casino, I dig the shit out of them. Next on our list, number 5, it is Bad Bad Not Good with 4. I know you're thinking, who is Bad Bad Not Good? Remember that album they did with Ghostface called Sour Soul? Yeah,
I think.
Okay. See, after listening to that, I was like, oh, these guys sound good. I want to check more of the soul shit. And I'm like, okay, this is like that. It's like that jazz fusion shit. That I like. The chorus of hip hop, man. Like, all right, this shit sounds good. I check out their. I'm like, all right, I'm liking this. It does. To me, them like the way they've fused no jazz, hip hop, all them sounds. It's like chocolate and peanut butter. It's like it's everything I want. It's everything I want in something like this. I will say my favorite checks on this album is, of course, Confessions Part 2, Lavender with Kitchenada, Chubby's Paradise, which has this sweet horn sound, which I love. High Step of Love, which features rapper Mick Jenkins, who I think is an underrated MC, and yeah, that's a Ford healing component. That's some good shit. And in Your Eyes, which I thought that was a sweet soulful jazz sound, which I thought, wow, this shit just fucking speaks to me. The more going these guys was like, damn, these are some talented young cats, and they're from Canada. See, people in Canada have good artists too. Well, one that's not annoying or boring.
Well, Canada did give us Rush.
Okay,
and I believe Devin Townsend is Canadian.
Yes, he's our resident neighborhood Canuck.
See, people, we like Canada.
We just don't like JJ.
Or Drake.
Yeah, pretty much. Number four, a project which most of you might expect from me, well, kind of, is No Worries, aka Nas Anderson .Paak, and Yes Loud. So yes, Anderson .Paak is probably one of my the one artist this year that I only want to follow, because this man makes some good music. He's making some good music, and him colliding with producer Knowledge, who produced those soundtrack that I like this year. More coming that later. They did collab album for the label Stone's Throw. You remember Stone's Throw? You know, you got artists like Jay Dilla, Dem Funk, Madlib, Mad Villain.
Very nice. Yeah.
Yep. Right. Yeah, but like I said, this is like some groovy slow jam pimp shit right here. This is like the music that you play. Music that I picture back in the 70s where you just riding a Cadillac. You run like, I'm like, ooh, who's that sweet motherfucker riding at that? Like, yeah, it's me, baby. And I'm embarrassed myself even more. But yeah, the point is like, Anderson .Paak, I say is a great singer and a rapper who actually rap and sing right. And that's how Aqua doing it. Isn't that right, Drake and J. Cole? Nigga. And can I say, shout out to them for using a quote for Rick and Morty in one of the songs.
Get your shit together. Just get all your shit in the bowl, and then like put it in the shit museum so it's all together. All your shit, summer.
Damn. When is season 3 though?
Obviously, it's not here right now. It's
Soon.
December. God damn it.
Yeah. Anyway, no worries and yes, love. Damn good album. Now number 3, Rob, get ready to cheer because it's Danny Brown with Atrocity Exhibition.
Woo!
This shit is banging. This is the type of shit. This is the type of shit that make you want to go crazy. Danny Brown absolutely made the most experimental hip hop album that always that gets better and better after every listen. I can't decide what track I like the most. Okay, I really love Really Though with me, the project track with Kendrick, Absolute Earl Sweatshirt, who owned the fucking track in that last verse. That is a fucking fire verse from Earl. I'm like, damn man, that is some good shit. And there's a track where Ain't It Funny, and funny where it'll sound like you gotta go crazy doing this shit. Or What Lines, my favorite producer, The Alchemist, which damn, this is some crazy shit that this is some crazy stuff that I get into. This is like something that really draws my eye, draws my interest. This is just so damn good, and man, good. This is like, man, this is the type of energy that you need to listen to. This is a damn good hip hop album. Danny Brown did us proud.
So good.
Ooh. Hot damn. And number 2. Something you would expect from me. Anderson .Paak in Malibu. Yeah, the double XL freshman that did a good project. Well, 2, I count this a curious on the show, but yeah, this is another R&B hip hop experimental soul album that actually I can really listen to multiple times. Anderson .Paak just got this sound that sound. Like I said before, he sounds like Kendrick Lamar, but more R&B. But he can rap too. Like I said, he's a better rapper and singer. But like I said before, like this guy really has a lot of talent, a lot of talent, and he made some great joints. Particularly songs like "Am I Wrong" with Schoolboy Q, which you heard on a lot of Roz and Rollins ads so recently. Which I figured, can that song chart or something? Because I want success for this guy. Hell, I want him to win the best new artist Grammy whenever that comes. But since it's the Grammys, I know I can't rely on them for shit.
They're gonna get it wrong, like they always do.
Oh God, I'm gonna cry. But this is like some tracks I really do like with also like is Without You featuring Rhapsody, who of course she delivered a fire verse in there, and a good MC to look out for. And and some lightweight fees and ton of production from artists. You know what? I'll say that for last because my number 1, which some of you were probably wondering, this is somebody I don't think I mentioned y'all before. But number 1 album Kitchen Idol with 99.9%.
That's a name I've only heard through music blogs. I have no idea who they are otherwise.
Yeah, Kitchen Idol, he's his up-and-coming producer who does a lot of stuff for, Mick Jenkins, Freddie Gibbs, Mobb Deep, Anderson .Paak, you get why. So yeah, I said before, this is the album that I listen to all year long. The album that I just keep going back and forth because, like I said, I'm a guy that likes beats. I'm a guy that love, but it's not just that. There's like a lot. This is basically like a genre band because it's got, it's really electronica, hip hop, turn R&B, synth pop, all that shit. It features some guests, like a lot of instrumental tracks like Bus or Clean Riggins, which I thought that makes a good hip hop instrumental jazz fusion track, which I really like. Oh, Way Off with Bad Bad Not Good, which I thought, oh damn, this is the type of shit I really do like to hang. I like to hear a lot. And of course, we get some featured guests with Anderson .Paak once again. Yeah. Can you tell I'm saying this name all the time?
I'm noticing a pattern here.
Yeah. Who did a verse on one song? What's it called? Glow? Yeah, that's like Glowed Up. Yeah, that's right. That song he did. That was really good. other conspiracy was like there's another conspiracy like Vic Mensa. I thought he did a good track with them called I'm blanking the fuck, you know, fuck it. I'm gonna say the whole album is fucking good. Every track I listen to, I keep wanting to go back and repeat. Even on tracks that I thought were okay, I thought I'd go back to. That's how much I like this album. It's basically made for like me that likes all these different music genres in the one. Maybe not everybody, but it was made for a guy like made for somebody like me. That's the thing. It's like one big melting pot of music that favors me. In other words, yes, this is. Oh yeah. By the way, he's Canadian too. Oh, and Haitian, by the way.
Nice.
And that is why Kitchenadas 9.9% is my number one album of the year.
Woo!
Yes.
So now we have 2 out of the way. Alex out of the way. Now Mark out of the way. And after this quick break, we'll finish this off with my rather large list of favorite albums of the year. So, see you in like 25 seconds or whatever. And we're back. So we got one more thing to take care of here. Obviously, yours truly has to go through his list of albums. Now, I've been cataloging like my favorite albums of the year in this kind of, somewhat professionally structured manner since 2013, I want to say, because of like the music group I always interact with. And I've noticed like since then, I'm always only able to like get it down to like 25, and I have a really difficult time cutting it down to only 10. So I always leave it at 25. And this year was even harder, because this year was just like a real... Okay, this year is like Star Wars Episode 1. Everything but the music was bullshit, and the music was great. I mean, you're even gonna like get the...
Good point.
Like, the sense of how tough it was for me to make cuts once you hear what my honorable mentions are. So, just like you guys, I'm going to get into that first. So, starting off, honorable mention, David Bowie's Black Star.
Okay.
Yeah. A really great, like, parting album for one of the greatest musicians who ever lived. I'll admit, like, mostly because I only have personal connections to, like, a handful of Bowie songs and not full albums, but it was definitely a great way to go out. Up next, another honorable mention, A Tribe Called Quest, We Got It From Here, Thank You For Your Service. Now, I only say this as an honorable mention because, again, I can't say I have any personal history with A Tribe Called Quest, but it was a fantastic hip-hop album. It didn't necessarily reinvent the wheel or anything, but I consider it like a confident reformation of what made Tribe a vital like group within the whole of hip-hop. A group whose influences can still be felt today with guys like, Anderson .Paak, Chance the Rapper, Kendrick Lamar, all those kinds of guys. So... good hip-hop album, and I don't know if this is the end for them, because they've said, like, they might continue on, but in a different form, not under the Tribe Called Quest banner. But, yeah, good album. Now, this one I put as an honorable mention, because I have a thing against putting, spoof albums in the official top, but Sunrise Skater Kids' new album, Friendville, Sunrise Skater Kids being the pop-punk band project of YouTuber Jared Alonge. If you like, pizza, getting out of your hometown, and, just jokes about pop-punk music as a whole, this album is great and has a lot of really catchy songs, including my favorite track called Pit Warrior, a song about douchebag karate moshers, written very much in the style of the band 4 Years Strong. It's just a fun song. Another honorable mention, No Worries, Yes Loud. I know Mark... Ooh. Yeah, Mark had that on his official list. I don't have much to add beyond, it is definitely, like, the sexiest album of the year. Yeah, that's all I have to say on it. Very sexy album. Still got some honorable mentions. Childish Gambino's new album, Awaken My Love. A kind of a really out of left field album, which, went into a more R&B tone instead of the usual rap stuff. But I thought it was pretty good for like a retro, like soul and funk, throwback thing. It's got some good tracks on it. What are the hip hop albums in the honorable mentions? Aesop Rock, The Impossible Kid. And just to be clear, that's Aesop Rock, not ASAP Rocky. Don't get it mixed up. I kind of like this guy's style. He's kind of like if like LP had the lyricism of like MF Doom. Shit, Aesop Rock was signed on the Definitive Jux label, like starting off in his career. And good hip hop album. And again, speaking of hip hop, this one, because it's an EP, I'm not putting it on the top list, but The Orange and Mr. Leaf's The Life and Death of Scenery, which you can actually download for free, again, from Adult Swim. It's a really good album if you, like yourself some really lyrical hip hop and, just strong old school hip hop production. There you go. There's Snake Church, the newest album by thrashy metalcore act Ringworm. With Regret, the final album from current hardcore punk act Expire. And last two honorable mentions, there's Animals as Leaders, The Madness of Many, an album which I thought was good, but it wasn't like as strong as their previous album, The Joy of Motion, just because it didn't reach the right balance of mind-blowingly technical and really catchy songwriting that The Joy of Motion did, so that's why it's only an honorable mention. And last but not least, the album that Alex himself had as number 2 on his list, Periphery 3, Select Difficulty. Again, it was a good album overall. Periphery is usually pretty strong. I just didn't think I think the thing that kept it off my main list was that it wasn't as ambitious as the double album of Juggernaut, Alpha, and Omega. But still, by all means, Periphery 3 is a pretty good album. It even has probably my favorite song title of the year, The Way the News Goes. And yes, that is another Rick and Morty reference.
No love for Habitual Line Stepper, Roberts?
Why, am I supposed to?
Well, yeah, because it's about a guy who steps over the line. Habitually. He's a habitual line stepper. Charlie Murphy.
Yeah, I hear ya. And now, with those honorable mentions out of the way, we can now get into the top 25 albums of the year, so says me. Number 25, Nocturnal Masquerade by the band Tooth Grinder. Now, I've mentioned this name before because they were nominated for the Revolver Music Awards New Talent, and it's kind of bullshit that they lost, because if you want a metal album that hits the right, balance between a pretty catchy mainstream sound, but at the same time with lots of heaviness and, experimental songwriting, Tooth Grinder have got you, pretty damn covered. The songs, they hit hard. The hooks are really memorable. The vocals, again, kind of have that Corey Taylor style to them. And, anything that sounds like Corey Taylor is obviously, a plus in my book. And yeah, it's a really, strong album. It's kind of at the bottom of the list because I kind of don't like the fact that they kind of seem like they're straying away from their more mathcore-ish origins. But by all means, you need to listen to Tooth Grinder. They are going places for sure. Number 24, from a French death/doom metal band called Fange, or Fang. It's spelled Fange. I don't know how you pronounce that. The album Purge. Now, this one I actually kind of came across complete random because I just clicked a random article that said, hey, there's this French doom metal band. They released a free, album. And, I checked it out and it was really strong. It had this really, the production on it has this really suffocating atmosphere to it. And everything just hits really heavy from, the big fuzzy sludgy guitars, the pounding drums, and just everything, this real, all-encompassing atmosphere to it. It's some pretty quality, doomy death metal stuff. Viva la France in this case. Number 23, getting some grindcore in with the newest Rotten Sound release, Abuse to Suffer. Consistently one of, my favorite bands within the genre. And this album, again, much like other albums, it's just a freaking, punch to the face of, just pure, just grinding energy. Just everything pounds in your face all at once. And it feels like sitting in front of, a jet engine, taking on the full impact of everything. And it's just so very tasty. And speaking of tasty, who's up for some nachos? Weekend Nachos, that is. At number 22, we have the apparently final album from Power Violence Act Weekend Nachos titled Apology. Again, another album that, it's one of those, Power Violence, one of those styles where it has like, the fast, heavy passages, but then those just slow, almost kind of doomy, just beating you into submission. And heck, you kind of get that impression from the album artwork, which is like, this X-ray of just like a bunch of hands that I guess got broken beyond belief. That's basically what this album is. It's gonna break your bones to, shit, man. And, they've been consistently one of the better power violence bands out there, and it's kind of a shame that this is basically where they're calling it quits. But if that's the case, I think they picked a good album to go out on. It's just, heavy from start to finish. At number 21, rather. Sorry about that. We have the self-titled debut album from Emo Violence Act, Weak Risks. And this is something that a buddy of mine recommended to me that I used to play in a band with, because he's really into this kind of like heavy emo-ish thing. And I have to admit, it was a very, again, a strong album. Like, if you want, like, sort of metalcore kind of, that seems like kind of grindcore type of stuff, but with a very depressive atmosphere. Like, I'm sad about stuff, but I'm also angry and violent. This album, it's got a lot of, really strong, heavy songwriting to it, and it shows a lot of promise. And I hope, Weak Risks end up becoming like a really big thing in their genre, because they've got it coming to them if they can keep up this, level of quality. And now we're on to number 20. Now I got my shit straightened out. The first new album from the band Withered in over 6 years, titled Grief Relic. And I know it's been 6 years because the last time they put out an album was the time that Adult Swim's Metal Swim compilation came out, and they had the title track from that album on that compilation. By the way, when are we getting a Metal Swim 2?
Yes.
But that's beside the point. So Withered, again, a band kind of like Weak Risks. I mean, Withered is a death metal band and not really emo influenced, but at the same time, there's a lot of very depressive, melancholic atmosphere amidst all the, heavy death metal, shenanigans. It's the kind of thing that could pummel you into submission while, making you contemplate the mortality of your own existence. Yeah, it's just, that perfect yin and yang of anger and depression just all rolled up into this really suffocating death metal album. And now we're going to get into some prog. At number 19, we have Future History, the, I believe, sophomore efforts from the band Family. Now, if you've never listened to Family, their brand of prog lies into, I'd say it's somewhere between Gojira, Adamiron, and old school Mastodon, like Remission era Mastodon, where it's really more like just very groove intensive with these very, monstrous bellowing vocals over these very lengthy, like, musical passages. And that's definitely what you're in for here. These kind of almost occasionally riff driven, kind of rock and rollish kind of things, but at the same time, there's plenty of metal and just that savage vocal delivery just all over with great songs, especially like on Fun Time for Big Boy. Yes, that is a song title, and it is one of the best songs on the album. You just, again, if you're looking for something massive and huge sounding with, some great experimentation, Future History is an album you gotta, listen to it right now. And at number 18, and I know this is gonna surprise Alex that it's nowhere near the top 10, Devin Townsend Project, Transcendence.
Really?
That, I tell you, this year was just so good that even Devin Townsend couldn't crack the top 10. But by no means should you take that to mean this is a subpar album. Far from it. Devin Townsend is always like on point and on his game, especially with this album sort of continuing from the Z2 sort of style. But this one, it sort of tries to go to some of like the more heavier routes. It's almost like if you fused the styles of the two discs from Z2 into one cohesive thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's got those very beautiful, gospel-y, proggy passages, while at the same time having a lot of pretty, heavy stuff. Especially, like, I think the one track that best embodies this is, actually, I want to say the longest track on the album. What's the name here? Higher. which, fluctuates between these very beautiful passages and these more, savage, almost a little strapping young laddish kind of, passages.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's actually the song they close out their show with. Fantastic closer, by the way.
Yeah, and I also have to mention, as always, like, the production on his albums is really good, especially on this one because he wasn't solely producing it on his own. This time he got some help from, of all people, Periphery's own Adam Nolly Get Good.
When you want the best, you go to the best.
Exactly. So, again, another strong album from the Devin Townsend Project. The project is still a massive success. May it continue for however long the world allows him to live. Now, at number 17, we have the newest album from the progressive band Kyodot, titled Plastic House on Base of Sky. Now, if you've never heard of Kyodot, they are more or less the Final Fantasy of bands. They're a band whose musical identity is constantly fluctuating from album to album. Like, they've gone through so many, like, stylistic ideas. They've gone from, black metal elements, then orchestral and symphonic. They've had, chamber music. There's, freeform jazz. And I actually remember seeing them live last year at a bar show for, like, $5. And just seeing them go through all the different styles was just a pretty cool experience. As for this album, it is, just to give you an idea, it is nearly 40 minutes long, and there's like only 5 tracks on it. In this case, their style is basically a more complex, progressive version of like 80s, goth rock and new wave kind of stuff. Taking those, it's a very synth-driven album, and the drums, are kind of more electronic than anything else, but again, the way these songs just kind of go on and progress and, lull you into that same kind of really moody headspace is just, shows some of the strongest songwriting that Kyodot has done to date. Especially with the middle track of the album, Magnetism. Just, very good album. And now, at number 16, one of the strongest debut albums of the year, Age of the Fanatics from the death metal band Gutter Instinct. Now, I only remember, coming across this one on a Metal Sucks article, like one of those shit out today things, and I was just looking for something to listen to. And I was reading, the description of them, and I was like, this sounds like it's pretty cool. And oh my god, this was just some pretty, savagely heavy stuff. It has, a perfect mix of, more old school death metal tendencies with more newer school, kind of death metal. So if you need just pure unbridled, just death in your metal from start to finish, you have got to check out Gutter Instinct. This album shows a lot of promise for a band that's starting out now, and I can't wait to see where they go from here. They definitely have my attention. And speaking of unbridled savagery, number 15, probably one of the most mimetic or memed album titles of 2016, the newest and I believe third album from the grindcore act Nails. You will never be one of us. There's not really much to say when it comes to Nails. Their music just pummels you and beats you into a bloody mess every time you listen to it. It's just, this is the kind of, it's just a pure adrenaline rush of just heavy, just very violent, just from that opening title track with that, as when it starts off with this chorus of people who are constantly telling you, you will never be one of us, then getting into the actual, song with just the bellowing vocals and the savage, all-encompassing, guitars and bass, and it just continues from there, just song after song, just hitting you, pummeling you in the face, violence is forever, savage intolerance, and my favorite track on the album, Life is a Death Sentence. It's just, it is both powerful and violent at the same time. And who doesn't love violence? Yay, violence!
Violence makes the world go round.
That is very true. And now we're going to move on to some more prog here. At number 14, we have the newest album from European prog metal act Haken titled Affinity. Now, I'm trying to remember the last time they released an album. I think it was actually 2013 or 14, and I didn't get into them until the year after that, and they're, a really great current progressive metal band. And so when I heard they were coming out with a new album, I was like, yes, I am there. And, this album, I'm not sure they say, like, there's kind of there's not really, like, a narrative concept to it. Like, they say, but the lyrical themes are about, like, the relationship between, like, man and machine. Something you've probably heard in a fair share of progressive metal albums, I imagine, Alex.
Yep, quite a bit.
Yeah, and you even get that sense from, like, the opening track, which is literally titled Affinity.exe. And then it just goes from there into a whole host of really fantastic tracks that are old yet new at the same time, because while it mixes it with their current, kind of, like, their style, I'd say, is almost like if Dream Theater only started, like, 5 years ago, as opposed to, like, 20 or so. 20 or 30, whenever they started, I'm blanking.
That would be 30.
30, right. But, yeah, they mix, like, old school, prog tendencies from, like, sort of the Yes and the King Crimson style to, OG Dream Theater and Queensryche with, newer, proggy songwriting tendencies. And this influence is just all over the place. Perhaps most notably in the song 1985, where the synthesizers are about, like, as 80s as you can get. I mean, shit, you can tell by the title, which I'm pretty sure is, like, a direct nod to Van Halen's 1984. In fact, that's a good reference point. Just imagine the synth sound on a Van Halen album, and you basically have the synths on this song.
Mm-hmm. And better it be that than, that song 1985 that no one ever wants to remember.
Yeah. Don't ever speak of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, every track, is just fantastic musically with these, as it goes on, every track feels like a proper, like, musical journey and not just, hey, we stitched together a bunch of random nonsensical parts together, with probably the standout track being The Architect, the longest track on the album at nearly 16 minutes, as it ebbs and flows between these melodic pretty passages and these more blast beat laden, metal as fuck passages. In fact, part of what helps, the heavier parts of this song is that it features unclean vocals performed by guest vocalist Einar Solberg from fellow European prog metalers Leprous, who actually had my number one favorite album of 2015 with The Congregation. So it's nice to see that guy showing up on another Best of the Year album. Just, c'est magnifique.
You know how it is with the prog community. They all stick together.
Damn right. And now, moving on to some metalcore at number 13, with the newest album from Every Time I Die titled Low Teens. Now, I've probably said this in the past, but I love Every Time I Die. They're one of those bands that have gotten, like, consistently, better with each release, from the strong, really strong, heavy, catchy songwriting to the wonderfully, out there cryptic and sarcastic lyrics of frontman Keith Buckley, which are ever in full force here, as there's the main theme of the album lyrically is more or less Buckley trying to deal with not just his newfound sobriety, but the fact that he actually became a dad within the past year or so. Yeah, he actually, like, his first daughter was born, I want to say December 15th. And that's kind of a recurring, theme through a lot of the lyrics on the album. In fact, the strongest indicator of this is the track The Coin Has a Say. You can see it in a lot of the lyrics. The ending lyrics are, untimely ripped into this world, I was born again as a girl. So you see this idea that he sees sort of a chance for him to, I guess, redeem the various fuck-ups in his life through having to be a father to his daughter. But he's trying to come to terms with that, because elsewhere in that song, there's lyrics like, first I need to save the life of God so that God can come and save me from myself. Again, just lyrics like that have more, like, personality and identity to them than 90% of other metalcore acts is why I love Every Time I Die so much. And just to give away another, like, lyric that I really like, I think it's on a song called, God, what song was it? Oh, no, wait, the lyrics I was just saying were, from the song Pedal. My mistake. The song I was thinking of, The Coin Has a Say, there's a really great line, I can't go back to who I was, Metallica without the drugs. So you kind of get that sense, because he's even said it himself, like, his usual lyrical writing process would usually be, like, do drugs or get really drunk and just scribble down whatever comes out of his head. But obviously, now that he's a dad, he kind of had to, like, struggle with that, and he can't really do that anymore. So it's really interesting to hear that play out on record. So, again, Low Teens, Every Time I Die, never leave us, Keith.
Yeah, well, I actually was into Every Time I Die years ago for a little bit. You're actually getting me interested in that. I might check out that album later on.
And now we go on to album number 12, The Glowing Man, the latest 2-hour musical epic from experimental rock outfit Swans. In fact, probably what Michael Gira has said is the final album from this current incarnation of the band. You know, the one that's already released 2 2-hour-long epics up to this point. Now, I obviously love this kind of uncompromised, songwriting where songs are just bloated to hell and it's just an exercise in song flow and just, building up tension for whatever musical ideas you might have. And you get that here, especially with the second track on the album, the nearly 25-minute long Cloud of Unknowing, which almost kind of feels like the soundtrack to the dawn of a Mayan civilization. Just the way the strings and bells build, and then there's this, furious, swelling of pounding tribal drums. Just, again, it's self-indulgent as hell and my preferred kind of songwriting. And you even, especially on The World Looks Red / The World Looks Black, where it kind of, again, it starts off, low, kind of, and it has this twinkly, almost soothing vibe before it segues into something a little more, you just hear this repetition of vocals saying, follow, follow, kind of like this tribal cult thing. Not to mention, even intermixed with, these trumpet blasts that kind of, I almost want to say it kind of sounds like Batman-ish in a way, but nowhere near as goofy. And, of course, we must mention the title track, the nearly half-hour-long title track, where, again, just all the ideas culminate together. Just this ebb and flow of just calm, and then swells, and then it just gets loud and noisy as the guitars and the drums pound and stack on top of each other into these heavy, massive walls of noise. And then once you get to the end, finally, peace. Which is actually the name of the ending track, by the way. But yeah, this is one of those albums that's like an experience. You can't listen to this album unless you're going to commit 2 hours of your life to it. And by all means, you should. Who knows where Swans goes from here, but one can only imagine. At number 11, just outside of the top 10, which was actually kind of surprising to me myself, Death Grips with Bottomless Pit. Now, it's no secret that I obviously love me some Death Grips. Just the crazy frenetic mixture of, industrial rap and hardcore punk just swirled together into this weird, savage, digital kind of embodiment of just, it's hard to put into words because they've gone through so many styles. And especially on here, you get the opening, this very hardcore punkish track giving bad people good ideas, which, can I just say that's a fantastic name for a song. And then, you just go from there with all kinds of, weird, offbeat production with just kind of tones of rave and industrial, and even some more lighter stuff with one of my favorite tracks, the track which kind of has this very atmospheric, almost detached quality as MC Rise just, who you think you are, fucks, do you know who I am, fucks, they don't understand. I'm like, again, just this weird kind of out of it tone that perfectly just works. And just the production is so good, especially on the track Trash, which kind of has this, it almost sounds like, the beat almost sounds like the kind of thing that you would expect to hear sampled on an MF Doom track, with kind of this orchestral, these orchestral, like, horn stings, and as it just kind of, him, enigmatically rapping about, just uploading trash to, everywhere on the internet and stuff like that. Also, on the very industrialized track, BB Poison. Oh, no, wait, sorry, Houdini. BB Poison is a track I'm thinking of where it has, like, the beat, the snare on that beat isn't even like a snare. It's just like this, kind of weird popping sound. But again, just death grip. So I do have to say this, though. The reason why it's not in the top 10 is because as much as I like this album, it does go back to what is more or less the style on their debut album, The Money Store, which I'll admit is probably my least favorite of all Death Grips albums. But hey, even Death Grips on an average day is better than your favorite music artist on a good day. And now we are in to the top 10. And at number 10, which I'm sure is going to make Mark very happy, Danny Brown, Atrocity Exhibition. Now, I got into Danny Brown last year because he had a track on the Adult Swim singles program with Clam's Casino. And that was a pretty good track. And so I checked out some of his other stuff. I'm like, this guy's pretty good. He's got, like, pretty offbeat flow, with a high-pitched voice and killer production. And when I heard he was coming out with a new album, I was like, sure, I'll be there. And when I saw he got signed to Warp Records, which has all kinds of great electronic producers and stuff, I'm like, I wonder if this means, like, he'll step his production game up. And oh my god, it really shows. Like, you get the sense immediately with the opening track where it kind of has, like, this sweltering, it almost kind of plays out like the soundtrack you'd hear to, like, any scene in Breaking Bad where Jesse is just kind of chilling out in his house, just stoned out of his mind, just like, I'm sweating like I'm in a rave. I've been in this room for 3 days. And, the thing I like about Danny Brown, especially on this album, is, like, sure, he raps about, drugs and banging hoes and stuff, but, like, there's a clearer focus here. Whereas other rappers just tell you they're, banging hoes and doing drugs, Danny Brown, through a combination of great lyrics and great production, tries to sort of bring you into his world, sort of get you to understand the actual mindset of what it's like to be a druggie who's trapped in their self-destructive patterns. Especially on the track Ain't It Funny, which has this beat that sounds like you got stuck in rush hour traffic, and he's just rapping frenetically about, like, how he knows he's stuck in his behaviors, but even if he wanted to stop, he just can't, as he puts himself, ain't it funny how it happened? Whoever would imagine the joke's on you, but Satan's the one laughing. And just every track on this album is just pure lyrical and musical gold from start to finish. It's, rap album of the year. Nuff said. At number 9, we have Winter's Gate from the melodic death metal act Insomnium. Now, one of those kinds of albums where it's one song that's like 40 or 50 minutes. But, of course, they have to split it up into 7 tracks because of, streaming and iTunes reasons, which, bleh. But if you need just some fantastically dark, gorgeous, haunting metal, metal that's all of those at once, you need to check out Winter's Gate. Insomnium are consistently one of the best melodic death metal bands out there, and this album just proves just the fantastic songwriting chops as it brings, again, the heaviness and just the haunting beauty of this style. So yeah, that's really all I had to say. You kind of have to listen to it for yourself to get it. At number 8, The Algorithm's new album, Brute Force. The Algorithm, for those of you who are unaware, is a French producer named Remy Gallego who produces music that is a mix of electronic styles like IDM and dubstep with djent. And it's not like a half-assed mix of those things either. Like, it really, he really tries to fuse the two sides in ways that make sense. And with Brute Force, he probably achieves this goal better than either of his previous 2 releases, bringing what is easily like his strongest album to date. Just the songwriting flows so much better and more effortlessly with the, computerized sounds and just the heavy blast beating drums and guitars. And he even goes to some new musical influences, Like how on the title track, there's a few black metal passages which actually work out really well. And on the track User Space, which goes in a more synth-wavy kind of direction. Almost like, Ghost or Carpenter Brute. It's just, again, the algorithm is just too good. Why can't more people succeed at using metal and electronic like this? Remember, you gotta mix it evenly. You can't just half-assedly plop it on top of what you're already working with. That's not how it works, man. Number 7, Mantar's newest album, Ode to the Flame. Oh, and it is again, going back to sludge and doom for a minute, this is some metal from, just the darkest pits of hell. Again, it's just so savage and dark, and especially with the shredding, vocals, which almost sound like a version of Ollie Sykes from Bring Me the Horizon if he could actually scream well. Pure, demonic doom and sludge on every track, like Cross the Cross, Era Borealis, and combined with just music that, veers between hardcore punk, sludge, doom, frigging even a few thrashy bits in there, and you can see why Mantar are easily one of the best up-and-coming sludge bands right now. All they know how to do is just write great music so far, and I cannot wait for another album from that. I need a new album from that, right now. That's just how good they are. But we still got 6 more. At number 6, we have the newest album from metalcore stalwarts Norma Jean titled Polar Similar. One of the consistently best bands in the current metalcore scene, and with this album, they just bring that fantastic mix of just heavy, catchy, experimental songwriting, and especially on the sludger end, the production here with just the more low-end guitars and stuff, it really emphasizes the sludge and the chugs, but not in a way that's monotonous. They actually know how to write, riffs and hooks and stuff, especially on tracks like Forever Hurtling Towards Andromeda, 1 Million Watts, and Synthetic Sun, where, you can have the sludgier, kind of breakdown passages, then some faster, D beats and blast beats. And as always, Corey Putnam's vocals are just, the man can sing, the man can scream, he can do it all, and just so fantastically well. Always be on the lookout for any Norma Jean. All Norma Jean's good Norma Jean, but Polar Similar is probably the best Norma Jean up to date. And now we are into the top 5. Woo! Number 5, Meshuggah, The Violent Sleep of Reason. Meshuggah, I've mentioned this before, probably somewhere in the top 10 of my favorite bands of all time, and they were ever since I first heard Obzen in high school. Just, you gotta respect the forefathers of Gent, man. The Gent, Alex! Gent!
Oh, I know.
Yeah. He's trying to play Bleed, but badly.
I don't have an amp, okay?
Dude, I can hear it from here. You're just playing it badly no matter what. But yeah, getting back to this album.
Yeah, that's kind of the joke.
Yeah, getting back to The Violent Sleep of Reason. I'll admit, I thought their last album, Koloss, was good, but not great. The songwriting felt just a little too monotonous, given what I expect from this band. But they quickly course-corrected on this album. Probably because of, the live recording aspect. Everything just sounds really just great and in sync with each other. And the grooves are, tight and complex. But they're never, dull and mind-numbing. And, as always, you just gotta love those good old shredded vocals from Jens Kidman. Just so good. And the drumming from one of my inspirations, Thomas Hake. Very complex, and the man knows his way around a kid and how to hold down any kind of beat. And, you listen to, Violent Sleep of Reason, every track's got, strong song. You open strong with Clockworks. You have the more groovier Born in Dissonance. You have Nostrum, just with its very, snare, drum roll focused heavy beats. again, I could go on about this album, but I can't find the words, and then you need to listen to Violent Sleep of Reason. This album is essentially what Koloss should have been from the word go. Number 4 on the list, Shadows Swallowed the Flood, the third and final release from Brooklyn Meddlers Goes Cube. I got into this band back in 2011 with their sophomore release in Tides and Drifts, and I loved it right away just for its fantastic mix of sludge and shoegaze and hardcore punk tendencies. They knew how to bring really heavy songs that at the same time had these beautiful, somber passages and just strong, catchy riff writing. So when I heard that this was going to be their last album, I'll admit, I kind of teared a little bit because this band was just like so young and they showed so much promise and potential to go off to more interesting places. But I understand that Ghost Cube frontman David Buchowski is currently busy with a new project, Publicist UK, and Godspeed to him. Hopefully he does good things with that. But this album is, again, just a fantastic swan song of an album. From the word go, you're hit with this catchy stomping drums and guitars on Ignore the Stranger. And then just going from there, you have these really sludgy, intense passages on songs like Where They Found Me and Straw Man. And even on the ending track, Anthologies, which has the most extreme flow of all as it goes between the somber passages, the hardcore punk, sludge. It jumps around to, all these moods, and it's just, they are easily probably some of the best songwriters of the past 5 years. So it's kind of a shame that they're going to be gone. But again, they picked the strongest foot possible to leave out on. So if you have not gotten around to listening to Ghost Cube yet, do yourself a favor and listen to Shadow Swallow the Flood. Now, album number 3, Oozing Wound, Whatever Forever. This is the band I first got into with the 2014 Adult Swim singles program with their track titled Drug Reference, the drug reference being that it's 4 minutes and 20 seconds long. Ha! And I've said it before that thrash doesn't really do much for me these days, but this album just brought a whole different kind of just savagery to it, with its, almost kind of black metalish lo-fi production, its raspy vocals, pounding drums, and fuzzy, thrashy guitars. And so when I heard they were coming out with a new album, I was obviously there. And right from when you hit play on Rambo 5 Preemptive Strike, you're in just for a savage good time. Every track brings just the raspy vocals straight from like the 8th layer of hell. The fuzzy as hell guitars they slash at like your throat with every riff, with every tremolo pick, and so good. The loud, thunderous, pounding drums, and the way all of these swell together into excellent songs, and especially these massive like walls of noise, like with the guitar feedback and the pounding beats just all over the place. It just swells and swells and just so good. Just every track here is great. Although I'd have to give special mentions to You Owe Me, I Owe Me, and Everything Sucks and My Life Is a Lie. And of course the first single from the album, Diver. Again, from top to bottom, everything is just magnificently violent and savage. And now, number 2, Perturbator, The Uncanny Valley. Now, 2016 has been another one of those pretty good years for the synthwave genre, thanks to, as Mark mentioned earlier, the popularity of Netflix's Stranger Things and the score composed by the members of Survive. Now, while I'll admit I thought the Survive album that they released this year was only okay, there's no denying that synthwave across the board with the releases we did get from guys like Ghost and Confrontational, proved the genre still got staying power. And Perturbator, man, he provided just the strongest of them all. When you hit play on that opening track, Neo Tokyo, not to be confused with Akira, you're in for a darkly, a catchy but dark and future sci-fi cinematic kind of thing, echoing everything from, Blade Runner and RoboCop and Total Recall. Those very 80s just synths. Dark, cinematic as hell, extremely catchy on every front, especially with great tracks like Disco Inferno, which work in some, very, effects-driven guitar work. And probably the best track on the album, the halfway point She Moves Like a Knife. Just with its haunting synths and just driving beats and, heavy bass. And again, it is probably the most cinematic album you're likely to listen to this year. And if you're not on the Perturbator wagon, you better be, because obviously this guy is going places. Shit, he's going to be doing a mini US tour in 2017, his first in fact. So you got a chance to get on the bandwagon. You have no excuse. And now, the number one album of 2016, as declared by Monsieur myself. What could it possibly... It's Dillinger. Come on, you know me. Could it really have been anything other than the newest Dillinger Escape Plan album, Dissociation? I remember when I first got into Dillinger. I actually went with a buddy of mine in high school to go see the Deftones live. This was, I want to say, my junior year of high school. And I actually had no idea if there were any other bands playing. But when we got to the, merch table, I saw, Dillinger. I feel like I've heard that name somewhere. And then, as soon as the band actually got on, they just, blew my mind. I couldn't handle just the sheer intensity of their stage presence. And from there, I had to go listen to the album Option Paralysis. And from there, I was just hooked. I was fascinated by just the swirling vortexes of musical chaos that they were able to craft on each song, while still having, room for actual hooks, melodies, and occasionally, really dark, somber, kind of depressing tracks. And that same continued for their follow-up, One of Us is the Killer, which just, amped things up from there with improving. Just, again, this band, they've just been so consistently excellent, just, rising in quality. And when the news broke that they were probably going to be breaking up following this album, I'll admit, I got a little sad, because you rarely ever get that level of consistent quality from most other music acts. And so as soon as the first track from Dissociation even premiered, Limerent Death, I knew again that they were probably going to knock it out of the park. That slow, steady drum beat with those loud, vocals from Greg Puciato and those chugging low end and then high chord, just alternating guitar riffs, with the fast, mathier passages. And so when the full album came out, I was there day one to buy it. In fact, I would say it's probably the first album I bought with, my first paycheck from work. Every song is, as always, fantastic. From the album opener to the somber melancholicness of the follow-up, Symptom of Terminal Illness, with its, again, just beautiful melody mixed with, just complex enough a passage to where it's not overwhelming. And then, just from there, every other track, it's got, just from track to track, there's these great musical experimentation, just these frenetic passages, these new whacked out vocal deliveries from Greg, and even veering off into weird tangents like with the track Fugue, a purely electronic kind of IDM thing. The jazzier passages on tracks like Honeysuckle, and the slower, stompier hooks and stuff like Nothing to Forget. And of course, probably the most beautiful track that the Dillinger Escape Plan have written to date, besides Widower, the ending title track with this light up, with these, violins, these strings that, sort of lure you into this is really the end. And the beautiful vocals from Greg as he's just over and over singing, finding a way to die alone. And, mixed with this steady, simple drum beat, which, fun fact, the drums on the final track of Dissociation were not played by Billy Reimer, but rather Zach Hill, the drummer of Death Grips. And it's just a great way to go out. And to go to, what I said about when Alex was giving his story of, the new Dream Theater album, I had wanted to see Dillinger Escape Plan again, and seeing them for me was just a really cathartic experience, especially considering, like I said, the concert I saw them on was the day after the 2016 election, where America decided to shoot itself in the foot 5 times over with a shotgun. So I just had so many frustrations, just such this intense panic, worried state about just where the world is going, and just being able to get away from that and, cathartically express my feelings, vicariously through just the music of the Dillinger Escape Plan, knowing this is probably the last time we'd see them for a while, if ever, was just almost a spiritual experience for me. And I'm not even a spiritual person at all. It's the perfect closing chapter and a fantastic swan song to one of the most exciting and consistently engaging metal bands of the past 20 years. Dillinger, as you once said it, you gave us everything we wanted. You were everything to us. And so, that concludes my list of the top 25 albums of 2016. And that concludes this rather lengthy episode of the Decibel Boost podcast. So now we're going to have to, sign off and get the hell out of here. So, Alex, where can they find you on the internets?
Well, you can find me, and I'll spell it right this time, Aura of Azure on Twitter.
Yes. Mark, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Back2Hybridmedia. You can also find me on my site, the Hybrid One, at thehybrid1.wordpress.com, where my link is on there too.
Yep. As for me, you can find me on Twitter at Rob Barracuda, as well as on AskFM and Instagram at Rob Barracuda. Rob Barracuda is also the name of my YouTube channel, where you are more than likely listening to this podcast. While you're there, be sure to hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon so you can always be immediately notified whenever new episodes of the podcast go up. And of course, this is the official music podcast of the website Surreal Resolution, which you can follow on Twitter at Surreal Reso, and, find on its URL, www.surrealresolution.com, as well as find the podcast on its own subdomain, decibelboost.surrealresolution.com. While you're there, you can listen to the podcast, the past episodes, also listen to our gaming podcast, The Training Stage, where our friends Tyler, Joey, and John give you all the goings-on in the video games industry, and we're pretty sure they're going to do a big year-end wrap-up just like we've done just now. And of course, when you're on the site, be sure to check out all the great written content, where you can find, game reviews, weekly anime write-ups, which I believe Alex has just finished up one, I believe.
Yep, I just finished Yuri on Ice. It was beautiful and fantastic and gay and all that kind of stuff. And by the time you're all hearing this, you should all see a final review, final verdict kind of piece that, to say that I put my heart into it would be really underselling it. It's a good read. Y'all should really appreciate it.
And speaking of good reads, we'll also be getting a couple of movie reviews in the next couple days. In fact, by the time this podcast goes up, I'm obviously hoping to have it up by then, but you should be able to see a movie review by yours truly tackling the recently released theatrical film adaptation of Assassin's Creed. Yes, I took one for the team on this one. I swear to God, if Tyler doesn't give me a bag of Oreos for this, I'm gonna freaking bust him in the face. It's not a good movie. I mean, it's not offensively bad, but it's still bad.
Just go see Rogue One instead.
I probably should have seen that.
Probably should have.
Oh, and I believe by this point there probably should also be a Rogue One review, hopefully, by someone else on the site. And of course, as always, shout out to the producer, Mr.E, for graciously letting me use his music for this podcast. Well, we have reached the end of this podcast, and I still think we have one more episode that's probably going to be out before the year's over, which is retrospect on this year's Adult Swim singles. Alex will sadly be absent for that one, so you can expect me and Mark, although I'll try to see if I can get someone else on this time. So, until then, in the words of Last Week Tonight, fuck 2016.
Happy 2017, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and the words of Mike Toole, good nog.